Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Roll the Dice with Dave. I want to welcome everybody from Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Really appreciate you tuning in. Please make sure you go out there and Roll the Dice with Dave. Also, don't forget to share. Let's get these likes up. Let's get these shares up. Let's get everybody involved in this conversation. Also, tonight, if you are making any comments, please don't hesitate to use the hashtag Roll the Dice with Dave. If you catch it on replay, don't hesitate to use the hashtag replay. So this way I know you're watching it on the replay afterwards and I can make sure I reach out to you and we can interact. If you are interested in being on the show, or if there's a particular topic that you're interested in discussing, please don't hesitate to email me at rollthedicewithdave@gmail.com. We are open to all discussions and looking forward to having many, many more conversations and guests on the show. Also want to send a big thank you to all our supporters. And I also want to send a big thank you to my guests tonight. I'm really excited to have them on. It's going to be a great show and a great conversation. Couldn't have done this without you. I can't believe that I've been doing this for almost 2 months now. It's been so much fun, and I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you all for your support. So let's get ready to do this. Getting ready to jump into Roll the Dice with Dave with our guests. Let me go ahead and start bringing them in one by one. So the first guest I have this evening, Mr. Christian Reeves. Christian, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hey, Dave. Thanks so much for having me on. Hello, everyone. My name's Christian Reeves. I am the creator of both Black Men Talk and Preacher Talk. I am extremely passionate about creating conversation that challenges our culture and helps to progress it as Black people. So I'm always glad to be a guest. I never get to be on this side. I'm normally the one asking the questions. So, Dave, I'm excited to be here. I'm a single man, 20. I keep forgetting how old I am, 28. And my career's in professional development. I've got a beautiful girlfriend who's watching. Hey, babe. And excited to be in this conversation.
I tell you, excited to have you. And it is nice when you get to flip it. It's like when I was on Black Men Talk. I got to actually sit there and not have to worry about anything and just sit there and enjoy the conversation. So
I don't even know what to do with myself right now.
That's awesome, man. Next, I want to bring up my man, Coop. Coop, do you mind introducing yourself to everybody?
What's up, Dave? Thank you for having me, man. My name is William Cooper. I am a married man here in Raleigh. I'm from here originally. Glad to be back in Raleigh with my lovely wife, Amberly. I am a pastor, a professional, and a personality. So, for the better part of the past 13 years, I've been moving in between all three of those spaces. Certainly grateful to have the opportunity to serve as a personality here on Black Men Talk with my brother Christian. I remember the Saturday that he called, of course, when it was barbershop talk back then. And so grateful that we've literally been doing this ever since the first month of quarantine, having these conversations. So I'm excited about tonight's show. Looking forward to connecting with you and your great audience. And it's going to be a fun time. So, again, thank you for having us.
No, the pleasure and the honor is all mine. Thank you for being here. And Mr. TD Barrett. And before I get into allowing you to introduce yourself, you see, I'm not the only one that asked about the hat, right? So somebody in the comments right away, hey, where's the hat? That's the trademark. But TD, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Good evening, everyone. My name is TD Barrett, single man here in North Carolina, and 12 years a veteran of the United States Army. I am a hospitality management professional, and I'm just excited to be on tonight to share this time and space with my fellow brothers from Black Men Talk, and to be able to be introduced to a brand new platform with you, Dave, on Roll the Dice. And so I'm just excited about being here, man.
Well, I tell you what, again, the honor and pleasure is all mine. And before we get a little bit deeper into the conversation, I told you guys I have a few surprise questions. And here's the first surprise question. It deals with Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James' legacy. All right, so he just won a 4th championship. What does that say about his legacy in the NBA and when he decides to move on? What are your thoughts on LeBron James and his legacy now that he's won a 4th title?
Greatest of all time.
Coop, you're saying greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time. You heard the man Sunday night. Give him his blank respect, period.
All right, so you think it solidifies greatest of all time. TD, I want to jump to you because you're sitting there, you're just smiling away. So what are your thoughts on LeBron James and his legacy now that he's got his 4th?
I think LeBron right now he's it. I mean, there's nobody to compare him to in this moment. Like he said, put some respect on his name. I mean, I think he's been getting undercut and shaded for the last probably 10 years at least, if not the majority of his career, being compared to Jordan, then being compared to Kobe. And honestly, he's not like either one of them. His game is not like either one of them. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's even faster. The stats that he put up. I mean, granted, I personally think he has at least 2 more championships in him. And I think if he passes Kobe, then there really is no conversation to be had about him as it pertains to his level of play, his style of play, and where he submits himself in NBA legacy.
All right, Christian, you want to jump in on this real quick?
Yeah, I think it speaks to his versatility, and he is by far, at least this generation's greatest. We have to give that to him. We have to.
Cool. And I like how you said that this generation's greatest. I know there's a lot of people like myself grew up in the 80s and into the 90s about Michael Jordan. But to me, I put LeBron James as the greatest of all time, not just because of his play on the court, but because of his activism. Being socially responsible, socially aware, and actually caring what's going on in the community. I know a lot of people have made the comment, shut up and dribble. But I applaud him for not worrying about dollar signs and focusing on what he can do, not just for the Black community, but for mankind as a whole. And I think a lot of people discount that. So for me, he is the greatest of all time because of how active he is in that aspect. Move on to the next surprise question is it revolves around Kamala Harris. She is the VP candidate. So my question is, are there any characteristics that she displays that may turn off the Black community from Kamala Harris?
Ooh, hey.
That's a tough question, hey, right there.
That's a tough question.
And I know your TD is like, ooh, Dave. And the reason why I ask is because I heard I'm the faculty advisor for the Black Student Association, and this conversation actually has been mentioned. People have talked about it. Are there any characteristics she displays that may just turn off the Black community from Kamala Harris?
Well, I want to say this. I want to jump in. Somebody else steals it from me. I don't know if it's a specific characteristic, but I know that Black people, we are sometimes very hard on interracial marriage. And so there can be a question of how woke you are if you choose to date outside of, and it doesn't even have to, because it doesn't, if the skin doesn't look the same, it can become problematic for us sometimes.
All right.
That's true. Barrett, I'll yield to you, bro.
For me, I think she's going to always face the question, is she Black enough? Primarily because she dated someone outside of the Black race. But then number 2, she's mixed. I mean, so she's not 100% Black, you know. And does she understand the experience of being a Black person in America? Because she's had some level of leverage being coming from a multicultural family and not having to deal with the social norms of being Black or being ghetto. So I think that may hurt her. She may not be able to identify with the majority of what we experience as a culture. So I think she has some challenge, but honestly, you know, she's performed well thus far, to be honest. So I don't really see her taking a hit from the Black community for any of those things, really.
Cool. Thank you very much for your answers on that, gentlemen.
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah, let's get it.
Yeah, I think for me, there are 2 things that I've heard. Her record as Attorney General, prosecuting and locking up Black men, which I think is really an unfair characterization, simply because, I mean, when you're the Attorney General, it is your job, but you're not the person that's in the courtroom defending and prosecuting every single case. So I think it's a bit unfair. And she's in California, you know, I think the largest state. So when you have that type of, you know, opportunity, of course, there are a lot of Black people there. So I think that's an unfair characterization of her. And then surprisingly, I think one of the things that I'm hearing, even from Black people, a little bit more from conservatives, is just her aggressiveness, so to speak. There's still an expectation that they don't want her to be as aggressive, which I don't view her that way. But it's almost as if, you know, hey, she has to play a certain part. She has to play down so much of her strength to appease a demographic that does not understand that's really not necessary, nor is it fair, and it is misogynistic because that expectation of men is not there. So I think those are two of the biggest obstacles that would maybe turn off people, of course, with what my brothers have already shared about the interracial marriage and being black enough. So I think all the brothers touched it.
All right. Thank you for that. And the last kind of surprise little question. I was just talking with some students before going on fall break, and we were talking about Chadwick Boseman and his legacy with Marvel. How do you think Marvel should honor Chadwick Boseman going forward?
I want a funeral. And then they need to send him on. There needs to be this. I want a funeral and a movie scene, but honestly, I think they need to. If he doesn't have a star already on the walk, I think they need to. That is the only way to do it. He deserves it.
Yeah, I definitely think they have to do it big. I mean, as big as Black Panther was, they have to come back and honor him in that same fashion. I don't think they can scale it down. I don't think they can tone it down. They really have to do it well, and they have to do it right in order for them to be respected for how they handle his transition, because, I don't think he could be replaced, honestly, but I do think that they can steer this back into another place that will benefit us as fans, and also benefit them as a company, but they have to do it right. They have to do it the right way. They have to put the right pieces and the right, characters back in play to make sure that his send-off is memorable as his Black Panther was.
Make him like Mufasa and Lion King. We always still got that little glimpse. That's what I want.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Coop, any other thoughts?
I think the brothers nailed it. I would simply add that I would want, as a way to honor him, please cast someone, because inevitably, frankly, brothers, the franchise does have to continue. There's a lot invested in it.
Sure.
But I'd like to see them honor him with someone that fits the mold. Young, black, and gifted, but also his signature words. Make sure they know how hard we worked. I want to see someone with that level of work ethic, that dedication to the craft, that respect for what this role requires, and then someone who, quite frankly, can pull off an array. I've heard some people mention the sisters and other things, and personally, I'm just going to be honest. I don't want him replaced with a woman. I do want a man, someone with a strong background, someone that can pull it off. I know the comic book is what people reference, but the series doesn't follow the comic books anyway. It's its own thing. So for me, I do want there to be a strong brother that works hard. I'm actually voting for Killmonger. I think we can do some magic and put Michael B. Jordan, because when you look at the spirit of this work and what they do, it's more than just a role. There's a lot more with it. And so for me, that's my preference. I would love for them to figure out a way to make that happen. But if not, I just want a brother that fits that mold.
No, I definitely get that. A lot of conversations with me and my sons about it, and we actually said almost no matter what they do, it's just not going to be enough to honor such a great man. So I want to jump into this first little piece right here to get to know you guys a little bit better. Role models. So I'll go ahead and start with Christian. Christian, do you mind telling us who were some of your role models growing up?
Well, I was very fortunate to have some very influential men in my life. My Uncle Bill, who is a father figure to me. Terrence Brown, who was one of my seventh grade science teacher. And he was very consistent in my life through every change. Both of those men I owe so much to. They've been very consistent, and they did something very special that I've learned to do with mentees. They let me talk through things and figure it out on my own, while being a guided hand at the same time. Sometimes as men, especially young men, trying to figure yourself out and make those decisions, you have somebody who sometimes just says no just cut dry, you get rebellious. They mastered teaching me and allowing me to make my own decisions. So Pastor Brown and my Uncle Bill, they were great role models for me, have been and continue to be.
All right, TD.
One of my most impactful role models was my uncle, the late overseer Carlos Barrett.
He was a great man. Great man.
Yeah, Christian knows him from back here in Charlotte. But my uncle helped my grandmother raise me, and so seeing him set the example for leadership and ministry, and in life, how to get married the right way, how to stay married, and so that was a relationship that I miss dearly, but it helped shape me to be the person that I am. And then I've been surrounded with godparents who have helped shape me in my younger years, and even now still in my adult age, who help me, guide me. I have a group of mentors who are all my senior. They are all almost 60, if not older, that help keep me on track, not only just spiritually, but mentally, emotionally, financially. And they just keep me, grounded in the things of life. And of course, the pursuit of happiness. So I'm appreciative for my little village that I have.
Oh, no, thank you very much. Coop, your role models.
So for me, I can say that I was blessed to have my father in my home. So for me, my father kind of set that standard. Even why I'm a pastor today is because I saw my father doing it, and at a very early age, it ignited that passion and desire for me. As well, my godfather and then the church that I was a part of had a lot of strong men in the church. So there were a lot of different men. I had educators. I had people that were in my life that were able to serve as those mentors. I also always was there were some distant mentors. I can remember when Kobe died for me, that really hit me hard. And it was because I grew up idolizing Shaq and Kobe, that duo. And the reason why I wanted to get into competitive sports was I remember seeing Shaquille O'Neal being this big, oversized guy. I've always been overweight, if you couldn't tell. And so for me, seeing a big guy as a model in sports, that was someone that I looked to. When you look at entertainers and people like that, singers. So for me, I've had those close role models and mentors, but I've also always had my eye on people that were in certain areas that I aspired to be in.
Cool. Thank you so much. Next question I have for you guys is, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Coop. I know you just finished up, but can you give us 3 words that people that know you would use to describe you?
Sure. Well, I think bold and or confident, we can probably put those two together. I really do have that. I think if I'm in relationship with you, then I'm a loyal person. I'm down. I pride myself on being that person. And at times I can be a bit crazy. So I think those are some of the 3 words that people will probably use to describe me.
Christian shaking his head. That's great. TD, do you mind giving us the 3 words people would use to describe you?
I would have to say disciplined and dedicated, and then I would have to say direct. Those are my 3 Ds, and all of those describe me, I think, very well. Of course, there's a small tinge of crazy attached to all of those, but it's a good crazy. It's a
Crazy,
good
right?
So yeah, disciplined, dedicated, and determined would be indirect. Yeah.
All right. And Christian, 3 words?
I'm going with creative, resilient, and forward.
All right. So you said your girlfriend was watching. Would she use the same 3 words?
Ooh.
Oh man, I just messed with you like that.
Depending on the day, she may have some other words for me.
That may be 3 letters.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that. And this last little piece of just getting to know you guys, what do you guys do just to decompress, to unwind in your spare time? Christian, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, at this point, I would say Music is always my hiding place. I'm a music head. I love everything from Nat King Cole to the baby. I like everything, and so music is my hiding place. I really have been listening to a lot more music. I stopped for a while for some reason, and I just haven't been the same. But I'm getting back to my place. And the other thing that I'm very passionate about is photography. I do freelance photography, and so that is a safe place to see it from Eden's Eye. Let me put in that small that small little promotion. Follow me at Eden's Eye, please. But yeah, I love photography and music. That's it for me.
So just to make sure I have it right, you said Eden's Eye, EDEN.
E
Is that
D A
correct?
E D A N S I. Eden's Eye. On
Oh,
Instagram,
I love that.
follow me. You can see some of my work there.
All right, everybody. Hey, go check out Christian's work. We'll go with TD. What do you do to decompress, unwind, relax?
No, I like to binge drink on my favorite alcohol. No, I'm just kidding. I don't drink. My friends know I
Hey
don't.
Dave, you said the sales are up by 20
The
and
sales are
$40.
up. They are, man.
He's
They
helping.
are, man. He is helping it out, right?
No, I grew up as an only child, so most of my free time was spent to myself and by myself. And so even now in my adult years, I like to just get in my car and just go and stay off. So traveling, um, I did psychology. I studied psychology in school, so I'm always trying to figure out human beings. I'm always trying to unlock the code and crack the box open. So reading and traveling are probably my two greatest outlets to kind of decompress, is just to be by myself and quiet, to just relax and woosah. And then if I can't get my mind to rest, then I go to reading.
No, thank you so much for that. Cool. Because I know you said you're married and you have children, correct?
No kids yet, but I am
No
married.
kids yet. Okay. So
Kids, come on, kids.
so
You
what do
working.
you do to decompress? He's working. Yeah, that's what he does to decompress. He's working on the children, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you do to decompress?
For me, one of the things, like I think it was last week, it was the first time in months that I was able to go to the movies. So that was a big thing. I've enjoyed entertainment and just kind of losing myself in that space. Of course, now it looks more like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all of those things. Spending time with my wife and with family and with close friends, and when the opportunity presents itself, traveling. So I think those are my three areas that I try to decompress, and I'm trying to get away from decompressing through eating. To be frank with you, not to be funny, but I've definitely used that as a stress coping mechanism. So I'm moving away from that emotional stress eating side, but that has been a part of my past as well.
Um, I don't know if this is going to make you feel better or worse, but I have been doing that since March 13th. That was the last day before this semester being in the office. I have eaten more ice cream in the last few months than I have in probably the last 5 years. Just sitting at home, man, and you're sitting there watching TV and you're just shoveling it away. So I know what you're talking about, man, and I'm that same way. The comfort food and the eating. So I could understand where you're coming from, man. That's been one of my downfalls during this this COVID situation, just gobbling down the food. But I want to move into the next segment, get a little bit more serious with these conversations. I had mentioned to you guys, it's just a lot of things that I've heard some people talking about, other people's really not talking about and forgetting about. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was just the situation with so many Black lives being taken unnecessarily. A lot of people have seemed to just kind of stop focusing on it. We've had a lot of these situations, and now when it happens, people talk about it and they post on social media. Now they really are not doing as much of that. So I wanted to talk to you guys about what are your thoughts and emotions right now as far as what has been brought up in you as a result of all of these innocent Black lives that have been taken unnecessarily in this country.
For me personally, I think that This is a touchy subject for me personally because I grew up in an era and in a time in DC where there was no hope for a young black man. You growing up in the hood, growing up in the ghetto, you was either going to be in jail or you were going to be dead, and those were your two options. And so me and my friends, we used to sit on the porch, and we used to talk about what we wanted to do, what we wanted to be, and where we wanted to go. Really not believing that we was actually going to have the opportunity to do it because of where we grew up. So taking that and then seeing how we've almost as a country went backwards into a time frame, into an era that we tried so hard to get away from and stay out of, is really disturbing. It's bothersome, and it's troubling because this is not what we dreamt of. This is not the place that we wanted to be as young black men growing up. And so, for some, it's a fad. Somebody dies, gets shot. We talk about it, we protest, and then in a few weeks or a few days, it's over with. But for most of us who've lived discrimination or injustice, this is a lifestyle. This is, activism is not just something that we post about, because we are fighting every day to make the quality not only of our own life better, but for everybody that looks like us better. So this is not just some temporary moment for most of us. I know I can pretty much speak for my brothers on the show. This is a lifestyle. This is an everyday battle trying to combat the evils of injustice and racism. So it is a lifelong fight.
Yeah, I'd say for me, quite frankly, the initial reaction was almost no feeling at all. And what I mean is not that I didn't feel anything, but we've unfortunately grown accustomed and numb to it. So you really had to shock yourself into the reality of what's taking place. And then the other side for me, because I do believe that this is still connected politically, I look at it from the standpoint of this. This is the worst possible thing that could happen under the worst possible leadership. And so for me, when I consider that dynamic, it really motivates me all the more to try to push for that social justice, but also to push for reform at different levels. And of course, it starts at the federal level with our president, because whether you can say all you want to say about the city or state levels influencing policing, which is absolutely correct, the message that is being presented from the top down creates an environment to where it is now acceptable in every level to react or respond or to do what we're seeing these officers do. And so for me, that numb feeling, but also that understanding that we've really got to work to try to get reform, not just within our policing system, but with the people that create and that legislate and that direct the system. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Christian?
So honestly, for me, you know, I created this platform for Black men to have conversation with each other, and I really wanted to stop talking. And the truth is, if it wasn't for our platform and me recognizing that there is a sphere of influence that we've been given, I didn't want to deal with any of it. I didn't want to talk about it. I can remember the day after George Floyd died. One of the things that I do enjoy doing, I love walking. I just like to explore and just walk and go as far as I can. I remember going to a park and I was seeing, and I'm going to just tell the truth. I'm going to say it because Dave, you let me on here. I looked at all these white people who were enjoying life, playing with their children, running up and down the road and just smiling, having picnics. And I said to myself, here I am in the city, in Baltimore City, walking this park, and I'm worried if I keep my headphones in and my music is too loud, if I'm not going to be able to hear a police officer behind me and he'll shoot me. I don't know. It's been a very stressful time. It's been so stressful. It is still stressful, even though people aren't talking about it. It's still stressful to get in your car and drive. For some, all they have to worry about is a speeding ticket. I have to worry if I'm going to make it home.
Brother, you're so right. Last night I went out to go get dinner. It was a little bit later, probably 8 or 9 o'clock. And I live downtown, but I live in the good part, the gentrified portion. Very nice area. And I'm driving with my hoodie on, and I'm in the car, and I'm like, you know what? I had to have a moment where I had to think I need to pull this down. Because if I'm driving through here, God has blessed me, drive a nice car and nice house, but the wrong, perspective of who I am could be presented. So I had to be conscious of that, which is unfortunate because my neighbors, they drive their Teslas through the neighborhood and into the garage. I don't have to worry about what they look like. But me and my Cadillac, I have to be concerned, hey, if I'm pulling up, what is this guy doing here? And that's a very unfortunate thing, but it is absolutely our reality. Like, we don't enjoy that liberty and freedom.
And just to touch on this, the impact it had on me was not so much me worrying about myself, but I remember right after Arbery was shot by the two gentlemen in the truck and everything. And I went running through the neighborhood, and I saw a guy running through the neighborhood. It was a black gentleman running through the neighborhood, and I kept finding myself just looking to see if he's okay, right? So I kept turning and looking as we're running through the neighborhood, and he finally came up to me and he goes, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm just keeping an eye out to make sure that you're good while you're running around." There was and he goes, "Man, I appreciate it." And he kept saying he was turning and looking at me to make sure I was okay, because here are two men of color running through the neighborhood and we're worried if the other one's going to be okay. And that really impacted me, that initially my emotions were just pure anger and upset. But at that moment, we had a connection that may not have happened, unfortunately, because of something bad like that taking place.
Dave, I want to say something about the emotion of anger, because we're always told, not to get angry and respond. We shouldn't allow our anger to drive us. But the truth of the matter is, it does upset you. It is going to anger you, or at least it should, because you should not want this to happen to anybody. You should not want this to happen to no person that you know or that you don't know, because it's just not right. And so when people are responding with anger, it is an appropriate response to these kinds of things. And, I think we need to redirect some of the anger, but to be angry is okay, because these kind of things are very upsetting. As my brothers have expressed, and even you, that there's a level of caution, there's a level of concern, there's a level of fear that as men of color, we are careful, but we have to be extra careful because of the color of our skin. And so it should protect you. You should be angry. It should cause you to want to do something about it. So be angry. Those of us who are Christians, we know that God is an angry God. He's been angry before. And so us being angry should not be frowned upon, but our anger should cause us to turn toward action.
Thank you for that. I like the way you put things, man. You come with such a perspective that really sometimes makes me just step back and look at things a little bit differently. Either Coop, Christian, either one of you want to add on to anything?
Yeah, I do to what you said in regards of everything quieting down. We get into a fight all the time on our show, and for me, I think that speaks to our lack of leadership when it comes to social issues at this point. And I don't think, and I'm not saying that there aren't people out there championing the way, but I do believe that we don't have the same mindset and the same type of leadership. The way we're built and set up, the way that we have, we don't organize well. I don't think that we have organized leadership, and I think we pay for that because if we had consistent leadership that was in our ear, speaking at the forefront, gathering us together, this isn't. You would say that this should be an innate innate drive for people to just to want to fight for social justice. But the truth is, even from the civil rights, and it has to happen today, there has to be leadership that is drawing the people back to the foundation of what's going on, keeping their minds, focused on what's going on. We don't have that, and that's where I think that we trouble ourselves in the long run, and why in the moment everything is so heightened, and then it can quiet down because we have social media activists, but we don't really have leadership.
Well said, Christian. Very well said. Anybody else? Anything to add before I ask the next little question?
I think the brothers have hit it.
All right. If you guys don't mind, we're getting a little bit of feedback on some of this. When you're not speaking, if you don't mind just muting your mic, and then you can unmute it. I'll be doing the same. But the next question deals with some of the reaction that you maybe noticed from people around you. Were there any situations where you were just very surprised at people you knew and their reaction to hearing about so many of these injustices in the world?
For me, I'd say this, and I go hard, and I don't want to do this too much on your platform. I don't want to offend anyone, but I'll be quite frank with you. It's a little bit.
I'll say this real quick. I don't mean to interrupt, but hey, man, hey, speak your mind, speak your heart. You know what I'm saying? That's why I asked you guys to come on. So speak your mind and speak your heart, buddy.
So I've challenged conservatives, evangelicals, and I would say it on Black Men Talk, white people. Don't be at the protest, be at the precinct. And so for me, my thing is, it is amazing to me how some of the same people, I mean, you've looked at everybody. I remember Mitt Romney and all these people, Republican leadership, all these people were at these doggone protests. But at the end of the day, they've proven that racism is not a deal breaker based on who they back and who they support. So I'm not necessarily saying that I was surprised, because I was never surprised. However, I will say that really the surprise is that you even came to the protest or that you even said anything. But at the end of the day, keep that same energy in November. Keep that same energy when you're making your decisions. Because for me, my brother talks about all the time, Christian, the empty gestures. We've had an MLK Boulevard for 50, 60 years since the brother died. Or the man, I don't want to disrespect him. And so now you're putting murals on the street, Starbucks giving us cups, we got all this stuff. But at the end of the day, when it comes to real change, people that can affect real change for us in the community, all of a sudden, all of that compassion and empathy goes away. So for me, I'm calling out everyone that's watching this. If you're not an African American and you want to know how to affect change for us, and not just for us, but for yourself, because it's not just a selfish area. The people that promote these things, best believe they also have you in mind, because it's not just racism, it's also classism. And it has always baffled me how white people could vote against their own interest because of what they bought into.
You hit the point that I wanted to go to, Coop, and you said the last thing that you said was brought into. So, and that speaks to some level of investment and currency that was sold into that. So when you start talking about these companies who are conveniently catering to the moment and to the movement, it is because it is affecting their budget. It is affecting their monies. It is affecting how they remain stable at the top. And so we have to stop falling for the okie doke. When we get out there and we stop spending our money in their stores, and then all of a sudden, like you said, now, oh yeah, you can wear your Black Lives Matter paraphernalia, do whatever you need to do, as long as you don't take away your money from out of our store. And so we keep we keep sowing into people who only conveniently satisfy the movement for a moment. And we have to break that, because at the end of the day, the CEO of Starbucks is still rich. And the people that work for him are still struggling and living paycheck to paycheck, all because he conveniently says, hey, let's permit these persons to wear what they feel, or let them express what they want to express, but they still need to be clocked in to make this money. So, we have to we have to stop buying into, we have to stop investing into convenience versus the cause.
Well, I was very happy for once that while all this is going on, I didn't actually have to go into an office because I can tell you as a black man, one of the most uncomfortable things to do is have to go into the office the day after social injustice on such level has taken place. Because oftentimes our Caucasian brothers and sisters almost make you feel shamed for being in the room. They won't look at you, they won't talk to you, and God forbid you start crying. You know, now that was something we did deal with in our calls. I mean, we did all this diversity stuff, and I was confused. I said, "Well, I don't know why she's crying if I'm not sitting up here crying. And what do you want me to do? Console you and say, oh, it's all right? Use some of your privilege and go do something to help other people. Stop all that crying and do something."
Thank you so much for that. And just to let you guys know, I tell you what, if my mom keeps chiming in, so whenever my mom says anything, I get really excited. And I tell you, you guys got a fan in my mom. So you guys are right on. Thank you so much. Also, we got another one right here. There you go. Facts, Christian. That is true. Always the day after, they make you feel, like you said, almost bad for having those feelings. One of the things I want to get into with all of this craziness, and we talked a little bit about decompression, but I think some people don't address just some of the other aspects in life. And Coop, you touched on a little bit with eating. I've talked a little bit about it. But what have your guys' sleep patterns been like? You know, are you able to sleep? Does your mind stay running? I find my sleep patterns, for the most part, have gotten better after getting on CBD. So now I'm on CBD and it's helping me sleep through the night. But before that, I always found my mind was running with all of these issues constantly. Have you guys been able to sleep well at night just with all of this madness going on in the world?
No, man. I think for me, it's crazy because I'm going through a spell right now. I'm staying up late. I'm getting up early. And it's not for the sake of work, but I think honestly, for me, my system, my mind, my body, everything is just is having a hard time adjusting. It's not just the social, justice and the issues, but even just being confined. It's very challenging for me. To be frank with you, or I'll get in bed, I'll fall asleep, and then I'm up out of the bed by in an hour or two. So yeah, my sleep pattern it is absolutely off. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. I think it's a combination of factors. I'll tell you that this has been not the hardest or the worst, but it has been the most challenging year of my life. So many different issues I've had to address at different points. And as a man, you pride yourself in handling your responsibilities. And so for me, I'm always, even at the inopportune times, thinking of how to do that. But I think that's a great question. And I'm sure my brothers probably share similar thoughts with sleep.
Yeah, for me, I was a night auditor in the hotel industry for 5 years. So when I went to days, my sleep pattern has always been messed up. Being in the military, waking up at the butt crack of dawn, staying up for 13, 14, 15 hours a day. I've never had a normal sleep pattern. But the times that we live in now has definitely not made that any easier. I think, like Coop said, it's a combination of different things. More so for me, in this season of life, given all that's going on, it is more so the spiritual unrest for me, because there's always a warring between the spirit man and the flesh, and so between that battle alone keeps me up. I get maybe tops 4 hours of sleep a night, and that's on a good night. But generally, if I sleep past 4 or 5 hours, it's because either I'm not feeling well physically or I have taken some aid to help me rest through the night. But it is a constant tuggle. You know, the mind, like Coop said, the mind is always going. When I was in ministry, when I was a pastor, it was worse because I'm thinking about not only my own life, but I'm thinking about the life of my church, the life of my ministry, the life of the people that I'm leading. How can I improve the quality of worship and the quality of our church, and what's going to make people see that Christ is real and God is real? And my mind never rested. And so I know that my brothers are going through the same thing because they're both in Christian leadership, but it is a constant warring in the mind for me that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, my sleep pattern is off, but I'm gonna tell you what I did the other day for myself. I went and got a hotel room, and I shut myself in. I watched movies. I closed those blackout blinds, and I didn't know when morning came. And I feel so rejuvenated. I think sometimes you just have to change your atmosphere. You have to change your setting, and that was very good for me. So I plan on doing that quite a bit, especially while these hotel rooms are so cheap. I take my Lysol and I say, "Hey, we're going to get a good night's sleep tonight."
Actually, that's a great idea. And I've never thought about that. Um, Sometimes changing your atmosphere does change your just your physical being. That's a great idea, Christian. I might have to do that sometime soon. Um, Anybody else want to add anything about kind of just what their sleeping patterns have been through?
I would just add this for me, one of the challenges too is sometimes I have the quantity, but not having that quality. So I think that's one of the biggest things where I've had days where I've literally I wake up, I feel more tired or just more drained mentally or emotionally than I did when I went to sleep. So, there are a lot of different factors, but I think Christian, you just gave me a great idea that I'll probably take up on this weekend, and try to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I think anything that can break it up is going to be good. But I appreciate even this discussion because it's good to know that you're not alone, even in this, which is the power of these conversations. Because so many of us, this is the one year where these three words really mean something. I feel you. Uh, this is the year where you can really say that, and it's not somebody trying to get away from a conversation. I mean, mood. I feel you, bro. Like that's really what I find myself saying and feeling more and more this year.
Yeah, I want to say this too. Working from home and this whole virtual thing is very hard because when you work in an office or in that job setting, you have to find times, you have to find spaces, and you can turn things off. My company, I get emails at 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had to say in a meeting one day, you know what? I put my phone on my emails on snooze from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. I don't care how urgent it is, I will not see it because I deserve that. You have to set those boundaries and create boundaries in the spaces that we're in. I really believe. If not, you're running. Your mind is always running.
That's a good
Yeah.
point about the boundaries. That's a really, especially now, having done some work from home, the work life, home life, it blends even more. And yeah, those boundaries are getting seriously blurred. I'm going to move on to the next little segment. And it's just some things that I think some people just don't get and understand. And this is something that resonated with me. I only spent a short period of time working at an HBCU, but I know the issue that is going on from an educational standpoint at PWIs. And even when things were good, HBCUs were suffering. Um, what are your guys' thoughts as far as the current environment for HBCUs? Anybody can feel free to jump in and share.
I'll defer to Christian. He's the expert both in attending and working in one. So I'd love to hear his perspective.
Dave, I want to know a little bit more. And what perspective are you wanting us to speak to?
Well, it really could be any. It could be enrollment. It could be advancement dollars as far as donations, student retention. So these are all issues that I'm at a PWI, and I'm at a PWI again after spending some time at a HBCU. And even when I was at Livingstone College, and things were quote unquote good in the economy and everything's going great, there was still this struggle of getting people sometimes to look at HBCUs as a place to enroll, retain students, get funding. So what do you think the current environment has in store for them now, as crazy as things are?
Well, let's talk about how we got there if we can for a moment. I'm sure the fellas will jump in because we are 80s and 90s babies, and we were influenced by shows like The Cosby Show. You say what you want, but the show influenced and Different World influenced a generation to go to HBCUs. When I was working in HBCU world, one day I wore a Hillman a Hillman College sweatshirt, and one of the students said to me, "Where's Hillman at?" I said, "Oh no, you all don't know. You don't know." So there's some of those gaps. HBCUs media help to push HBCUs. So I really want to shout out those brothers in the NBA that have been representing very well. And I think that we have to, as Black people, because we can in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s, whether the entertainers went to college or not, you saw them wearing Spelman, you saw them wearing Howard, you saw them wearing all this paraphernalia because it was for the culture. I want to encourage everyone, if you attended or not, please have some type of HBCU paraphernalia, because when we talk about this conversation with Wells Fargo and the pipeline of 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 successful and capable professionals. I work in career services. I know that there are very capable students that I come across, alumni for that can that I mean would be amazing in leadership positions. To say that, I think it's so subjective and so small, and you have to have experience. The last thing that I want to say about the HBCUs and why we are where we are, when you talk about a school like Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina, that was founded in 1879 by Dr. Charles Price, one of the things we have to consider when we start talking about philanthropy for HBCUs, the first schools that you always hear about are FAMU, A&T, Howard. You're going to hear about these larger institutions. And the truth is, they have enough influential alumni that are able to really maintain the schools. If we're going to give, it is the private institutions that need your assistance. The private institutions. And they are the forgotten HBCUs that struggle to keep their doors open. So when we talk about times like today where students are choosing to go to community colleges rather than go to a four-year institution, because in most cases they're getting a virtual experience no matter what, many of our HBCUs are going to struggle. It is homecoming season, and we're doing virtual homecomings. That is one of our largest philanthropy events for HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. We are missing out. We have to give to the HBCUs. I want to challenge you. If you're in a city that has an HBCU, give something, because we have missed out on many of our events and the enrollment is low due to COVID. If we don't, we're going to lose these foundational pillars. The private institutions are going to suffer.
I want to ask Dave, and maybe you, Christian, as well. Do we think, or is it fair to say that the reason why our HBCUs have struggled is in part because many of our kids of color, students go to these PWIs for the sake of scholarships and in the hopes of making it to D1 and going into the pros? And can HBCUs not offer that, which is why they're going to Duke and UNC and University of Kentucky? What I would like to know, what is a contributing factor for us losing students of color to these PWIs for the sake of D1 and going to the pros? Is it something that we can do in the HBCU system that will attract our star athletes back to our schools, that will help us out in that regard? Or is that something that is hurting us because they're choosing to go to PWIs for the sake of scholarship and hope with the hopes of making it to the pros?
Well, I think that's a big thing that has to do with it. So, you need the exposure, especially if you're an athlete. You want that exposure. I really think that when you look at a lot of the professional athletes, if they formed a collective and worked together, they could probably create their own TV network, so on and so forth, to get the kind of exposure for the HBCUs that it wouldn't matter if a student decided to go to an HBCU or a PWI. But I think a big part of it too, for your non-athletic student is just a perception. One of the things that I never understood was why the perception of students that graduate from an HBCU, they're not seen in the same light as somebody that graduates from a PWI. Having now taught at both, the students are all trying to do the same shit, right? And I say that with all due respect, but they're all trying to do the same thing. Get through the 4-year program through the path of least resistance. Most of the students, that's what they're doing. And they're doing the same things at both. You have dedicated professionals that teach at both, want to see the students succeed, getting them internships, doing all these things. And then you have your pockets of students that are just trying to maneuver their way through the system. It basically is the same. If you cover up the name of the institution, you really couldn't tell the difference between the two. So I think a lot of it has to do with the perception that if you go to a HBCU, you've gotten a substandard education. Well, I can vouch that that's not the case. Having now taught at an HBCU and having taught at PWIs, you're not getting a substandard education. It's an individual's perception, and unfortunately, that perception of the majority becomes their reality. So,
and that's where we really need champions. We need people, from the professional side. We need champions and people that are speaking up and saying, our candidates, our professionals within our organization that attended these HBCUs, are doing outstanding work. We need people to be saying that. I just don't think that we don't get the praise that we deserve. Now, I want to say this: there was a young man in June. We talked about this on the show. His name was Mikey Williams. He's 15 years old. He's a basketball player, and he was promised several scholarships, Duke University being one. And he put out on Instagram and Twitter, and he said, I don't want to go to any of these institutions. I'm going to an HBCU. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the talented saying, I know what is said and that this is better, but you know what? I believe in our historical pillars. There is nothing like the HBCU experience, from the academic side to the extracurricular. Yeah, it's second to none. I just believe that. I believe it.
And I second that. I agree with you. I want to touch on this question real quick. Carrie, it's good to see you on here. Yeah, I think that's a big problem with the enrollment. It is, and I'm going to speak on it from a person of color perspective. I think college education has gotten so expensive, and for many of the young men and women of color, it is not out of reach from an academic standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. Mm-hmm. And then now you throw in the COVID and all of that aspect, it seems even more out of reach. And I'm one that has sat down, I'm a director of a program, I'm a college professor, and I've sat down with students who have come and have said, what should I do? And I said, hey, there's nothing wrong with going to school and doing a trade, or, hey, go to community college for a couple of years and bust out those gen eds, and then transfer and see me in a couple of years and, save yourself about $40,000 in debt. I have no problem saying that, because I think at the end of the day, we need to get back to what's going to be best for the student. And one of the biggest issues I have is a lot of people are not looking at the uniqueness that sometimes your students of color are going to face, that your white students may not face going to these institutions from a financial standpoint. But really, as a whole, education is being priced so high that it's going to be another one of those aspects that is just going to be for the rich. And it's just another way to keep individuals pushed to the side. And it's a shame that happens, because I'm having this conversation with my son now. He's a senior. And I tell him, hey, you got to explore all your options, including, hey, maybe community college is the way to go for a couple of years. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's a shame that that's where we're at when it comes to college education. So do you guys want to add anything to your thoughts on this?
I want to say one of the reasons why so many of our institutions are struggling is because we understand the plot of the Black student in financial aid. And many of our institutions are really allowing students to come consistently on promissory notes, and they are not in a position to pay those promissory notes. Here again, I'm going to say it, giving, giving, giving. If you're able to do it, please offer a scholarship, your $1,000 towards a student's books, to a student's balance. If they have one for that next semester, it makes a difference. And make one of the qualifications that it's an HBCU. As Dr. Dave said, many are struggling to pay that, and the institutions, we recognize that, and we're doing all we can to keep these young scholars, these young academics in school. But it does hurt our institutions.
It does. And you mentioned homecoming, and I tell you what, I've been in education for a long time, 16 years, and nothing was like the homecoming that year I was at Livingstone College. I can tell you that as an educator. That was a great time on that
we had
campus.
We had to do virtual homecoming last week. I wanted to cry. Let me tell you, that's my 1 week. YOLO. You only live once. I do it all.
Yes. I'm going to jump ahead to this because I've also had a lot of conversations being at a PWI about allyship. And we have GLBTQ plus communities. I'm the faculty advisor for the Black Student Association, and many individuals come out and say, "Hey, we're allies. We're allies of the Black community. We're allies." And one of the students said it as a joke, but it's something that I put on here. And he goes, "You may think you're an ally, but you wouldn't be invited to the cookout." Right. So I just want to throw this out there because I wanted to kind of bring the end of the show, kind of lighten it up a little bit. Can you gentlemen give me your perspective on the term invited to the cookout, and who would you consider inviting to your cookout? So it has to be somebody that's not of the Black community that you would invite.
Well, my guest list is easy than nobody. It's just for us at the cookout. I'm sick of all of our culture, all of our cookout. Until you invite us to the country club, you ain't coming to the cookout.
Ooh, I gotta save that, dude. Until you invite us to the country club, you ain't invited to the cookout. I love it.
No.
Now I feel a little different. I'll let you come to the cookout, but let me tell you something. Don't bring nothing, because I don't want none of your carrots and peas in my potato salad. And when we get up and do the electrical slide, you need to sit down, because we going to the right and you going to the left. All right, we have turned and you're gonna still be a different direction. You sit there, you smile, and you act like you're at a museum. Soak up this culture. Don't say nothing. Don't do nothing. You're gonna mess it
up. TD.
I don't even know what to say, man. Christian and Cool took me out. I'm an everybody kind of person that, I was in the military for 12 years, so everybody had to go to the cookout when we did something. But I think if you're coming, I think the invitation should only be extended to those who really want to be there. And if you really want to be a part of the experience and the movement, because if you're coming to sow discord, if you're coming
to call the
police, raise another,
to call the police,
yeah, if you're coming
checking
to call the
police,
yeah, if you're coming to raise levels of skepticism, just stay where you are. But if you're coming to really participate and embrace the experience, then come on, man. I mean, I don't have no harm in inviting anybody to fellowshipping, because again, fellowshipping is essential and is crucial for the human race. So, but if you come in on some BS, and if this was Black Men Talk, I probably would have said the whole word. But if you're coming on some foolishness, then you stay home and you enjoy and you close your window, because we're gonna play loud music. We're gonna drink out of the red solo cups.
Red solo cups, baby.
We're playing spade. We're gonna slam the card down on the table. We're doing all that. So if you got a problem with any of that,
we're expressive. We're just expressive. That's all. We just, don't be scared. We're just expressive. We feel everything. It's in our blood. We just feel it all.
And to anyone that my views do not reflect the views of Dave, or Black Men Talk. And I want to be clear. I'm joking when I say you can't come, but I am serious in that Black people have always had to make concessions without concessions being made for us. So while I'm joking, I want to be clear. You can come through. However, we want to make sure that it goes the other way because oftentimes we're not invited and we don't know about it. We always ask when we bring it to the cookout. So, of course you can come. I'm not racist. I want white people to be connected, but I also want that same consideration to be given to us. That's all I'm saying.
No, I get that completely. So, I just you guys just made me laugh. You cracked me up. How about you said, got to come to the country club. You can come to the cookout. But no, I just wanted to end on kind of this little note here because, we're going through some tough times here in St. Augustine. We just had a Confederate monument moved, and we've had individuals who said they're allies. And when the students start saying, hey, man, I don't know if you're an ally, man, come to the cookout, it was put in a way that some people just didn't get it and they didn't understand the idea of the cookout. So I just wanted to get your guys' take and perspective on it. And as we wrap up tonight, I just want to run through and get your guys' final thoughts. So if you don't mind, TD, I would like to start with you. Then I'll go to Christian, and then Coop will end up with you on the final thoughts. TD, final thoughts on tonight's show?
Man, again, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I appreciate you sharing your space and your platform with us and me. And it's been very, 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 very enlightening. It's been a quality conversation tonight, and I hope that whoever has been watching or who will watch will get something out of the conversation tonight because, just us sitting around and just sharing our heart, being expressive, as Christian said, I think that people can get something from it. And so I hope that we've done that tonight. I hope we've satisfied your invitation for us to come on. And it's always good being on with my brothers. And so I've just thoroughly enjoyed tonight. I believe we're heading in better days and better times. I really do. I feel like that things will get better. But we just got to make it through this rough patch. And I think we'll see some sunshine on the other side.
Yeah, and I want to add this. So Kim Reeves, Christian, I believe that's your mom. She said, hey, Mrs. Reeves, you're more than welcome always in my house. You can come anytime. When this is all over, you have a place to stay in the Rivera household, and I'll treat you the same way I would treat my own mother. So you're always welcome, Mrs. Reeves. This comment, I really appreciate this. This is one of my former students from East Carolina. I just wanted to say thank you for providing more perspective. Gentlemen, I have really enjoyed this. This has been a lot of fun. So let me go ahead and shift over to Christian. Christian, your final thoughts.
Yeah, Dave, thank you so much for allowing us on tonight. This is our Black Men Talk field trip. We are excited to be on Roll the Dice. And, you're one of those people. I'm just happy to have crossed paths with you. Incredible show. I appreciate everything that we said. I'm serious about the challenge. If there is an HBCU in your area, in your city, please donate, give. Please make a donation to that HBCU. And do it for a student who needs the HBCU pillar in their life. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was amazing, bro.
Thank you. Coop?
Yeah, man. Thank you for rolling the dice and having us. Glad to be brought into a different audience. I mean, honestly, I said some things that may be a little bit controversial for your group, but thank you for having me. Of course, I meant every word of it, but this has been a great experience. I did. This has been a great experience for me and to have this opportunity. And I want us to continue to connect. So thank you for having us. I'm excited to continue to see where this goes for you. And for those of you that are watching, I would even invite you to check us out at Black Men Talk. We'll be a little bit more in depth, a little bit more raw. This week we've got Black women up there, so you might want to either skip a week and see us next week, or come check it out this week.
Don't do sisters like that.
No, I'm just saying because the sis they're gonna take it all the way there, so we need to ease them into it a little bit. But Dave, thank you, man.
Taking them to a Black church before we take them to the cookout.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, the honor and pleasure is mine. And I tell you what, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on. I'm looking forward to having you on again. There was so much we didn't get a chance to unpack. But I was so honored to sit on Black Men Talk, and I feel honored to have you on here. So as I wrap up tonight, I just want to let everybody know that next week, one of my fellow faculty members who's in the natural sciences and has been doing some pretty amazing stuff over this whole quarantine and COVID is going to be talking to us next week. And I can't wait. He has been doing some amazing stuff with his kids, kind of getting back to nature. Looking forward to that. I also want to let everybody know that there's many different ways we can connect. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can catch me on my Facebook page, Roll the Dice with Dave, or if you just want to catch me on my regular profile page, David Rivera Jr. I'm also on Twitter at El Leon de Flagler, and you can also catch me on Instagram, Rivera D, the Flagler Prof. Also, I've been doing TikToks with my daughter. My daughter's 13, got me doing TikToks now. It's under the same name. It's amazing what we do for our kids, especially during quarantine, but it's brought my daughter and I closer together. And if there is a silver lining, hopefully we can all continue to come together as human beings and gain more respect for one and each other and listen. So, gentlemen, once again, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. Looking forward to having you on the show again in the future. And hopefully I can make it back onto Black Men Talk. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their week and a great night.